Everyone, good day, sir. Today, I will explain the weighted voting system. In a weighted voting system, dili tanan, not all voters have the same number of votes. Some voters have greater voting power depending on their assigned weight. And the formula shown here explains the quota rule. Majority less than or equal to quota less than or equal to the total number of votes. Means that the quota must be more than half of the total votes, but it cannot be greater than the total number of votes available. Say for example, if the total number of votes is 20, then the quota must be at least 11 because 11 is more than half of 20. The quota is the minimum number of votes needed for a proposal to pass. And the weighted voting system is commonly written in this form. Bracket Q, which represents the quota, colon W1, W2, which represents the weight, so on and so forth. And example is this 25, which is this is the quota. 8653321 are the weights, waiting player. And the numbers after that, yeah. If we add all the weights, we get 36 votes. The second example is 7, which is the quota 5442. This is not a valid weighted voting system because the quota is not more than half of the total votes, which basically means it's the weight system is greater. The total votes are 15, and more than half should be at least 8. Another is this 17, 5, 4, 4, 2. 5 plus 4, 9, 4, 2, 6. The total votes are 15, and since the quota is 17, which is greater than the total number of votes, no coalition can ever win. Second example is 11, 4, 4, 4, 4. The total votes are 16, and the quota is only 11. So, at least 3 players must work together to reach the quota. And next is the quota is 15. The weight 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 plus 4, 9, 3, 2, 1, 6. The total votes equals to 15. Both of them are 15, which means all players must agree for a motion to pass. And this is what we call a unanimous voting system. Next is 11, 12, 5, 4. Here, player 1 has 12 votes, which is already greater than the quota of only 11. This means that player 1 can just decide alone, and he is called the dictator. The other players are called dummy players because their votes do not affect the outcome. And lastly, 12, 9, 5, 4, 2. Player 1 has veto power, so he is the veto player. Meanwhile, the last, we call it the dictator. Without player 1's 9 votes, the remaining players only have 11 votes, which is less than the quota of 12, so no winning coalition can happen without player 1. So what is coalition, really? Well, coalition is a group or alliance of players working together. In weighted voting system, coalitions are important because players combine their votes in order to meet or exceed the quota. Say for example, 101 is the quota and the weights are 99 and 83. No single player can win alone. But player 1 and 2 can together form a winning coalition because 99 plus 98 equals to 197, which exceedingly is greater than the quota 101. But before solving, remember, coalition is winning if the total votes are equal to or greater than the quota. A player is critical if removing that player makes the coalition lose. So basically, example, if the coalition has 12 votes and the quota is 10, the coalition is winning. But if removing one player makes the total become 8, then that player is very critical because the coalition can no longer win. Now we move to the Banzhaf Power Index. The Banzhaf Power Index measures the power of each player in a voting system. To solve for it, we follow these steps. List all possible coalitions, determine whether each coalition is winning or losing, identify the critical players, and count the total number of times each player is critical. And we use this formula. BPI equals to the number of times a player is critical divided by the total number of critical counts. A player is critical if removing the player changes a winning coalition into a losing coalition. And this example is 100, 99, 98, 93. Now, let us solve this step by step. The quota here is 100. The player votes is player 1 has 99, player 2 has 98, and player 3 has 3. Since both player 1 and 2 already have more than 10 votes, they can win with almost anyone. And here we use the Banzhaf Power Index. Step 1, we list all possible coalitions, basically listing all combinations. player 1, 2, 3, player 1 and 2, player 1, 3, 2, 3, and player 1, 2, and 3. Step 2 is determining the winning coalitions. So a winning coalition is if the total votes are 100 or more, and the winning is 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. And here, next, we identify the critical players. In coalition player 1 and 2, if we remove player 1, only 98 remains. We're still winning. Remove player 1, 99 remains. It's still winning. So, no one is critical. In coalition 1, 2, and 3, here, things got different. If we remove player 1, only 3 remains. So, this is losing. So, player 1 is critical. In coalition player 2 and 3, if we remove player 2, only 3 remains, which is also losing. So, player 2 is again critical. Now in coalition player 2, player 1, 2, and 3, if we remove player 1, 101 remains, it's still winning. And if we remove player 2, 102 remains, and it's still winning. So no one is critical. So we count all the critical counts. Player 1 has 2, player 1 has 1, and player 2 has 1, and player 3 has none. So the total critical count is 2. Therefore, player 1 equals to 1 half or 50%, player 2 equals to 1 half or again 50%, meanwhile player 3 equals to 0%. This means that player 1 and 2 has equal power while player 3 has no real voting power. And lastly, another example is this. For the quota, 3 to 1, the weights. Now we find the winning coalition, which is 1 and 2, 1, 3, and 1, 2, and 3. And we identify the critical players. Coalition 1 and 2 equals to 5. If we remove player 1 and if we remove player 1, only 2 remains, and which means it is losing. And removing player 2, 3 remains, which is also losing. So both are critical. In coalition 1 and 3, 4 votes remains. And if we remove player 1, only 1 remains, is that it's also losing. And removing player 3, only 3 remains, which is also losing. So both are critical. Now in coalition, player 1, 2, and 3 combined equals 6 votes. So if we remove player 1, 3 remains, it's losing. So player 1 is critical. But if we remove player 2, 4 remains and it's still winning. If we remove player 3, 5 remains, which is still winning. So the total critical counts is up to player 1 has 3, 2 has 1, meanwhile 3 only has 1. And 3 plus 1 is 5. So the total critical count is 5. Therefore, player 1 equals to 3 over 5 or 60%, player 2 1 over 5 or 20%, and player 3 1 over 5 which is 20%. And this shows that player 1 has the greatest voting power. And that's how you solve using the Banzhaf power index. And that is all for the weighted voting system. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope I get a 1 GPA. Thank you, sir, for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.